Tom worked quietly in the supply bay of the human space station HFY. It was a large, cold place filled with armor, tools, and the hum of machines. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a pilot. He was just a cleaner. Every day, he washed off dirt, blood, and dust from armor suits used by real warriors. He liked his job. It was quiet. He didn't need to fight or talk much. Just him, the armor, and his tools. He took his work seriously. He made sure every suit was clean, fixed, and ready for the next mission. Most people didn't notice, but he did. That morning, he was working on a basic suit when a loud voice came from the hallway. "Clear the bay. Special armor coming in." Tom looked up. The guards rolled in a damaged armor set on a cart. It was big and heavy, with marks across the chest, shoulder, and legs. There were deep scratches, burns, and dark red stains. It had seen serious battle. "Whose armor is this?" Tom asked. One of the guards looked at him. "Mira's." Tom froze. Everyone on HFY knew Mira. She was a top soldier. She had survived more battles than anyone else. People called her the Steel Ghost because she moved fast and never got caught. She didn't talk much, but when she did, people listened. Now her armor was in front of Tom, broken and dirty. He put on his gloves and got to work. First, he touched the helmet. There was a long crack across the front, like someone had tried to split it open. He carefully ran his finger along the line, feeling the sharp edge. He moved to the chest plate. It had dents like it had taken hits from something strong. The red stains were dry but deep, not just splash-soaked. Tom worked slowly. He cleaned the blood with soft wipes and warm water. He used a small tool to pull out pieces of broken metal stuck in the joints. He replaced one of the knee pads and fixed a bent joint near the shoulder. As he cleaned, he thought about the person who wore the armor. What had she gone through? What had she seen? Why was the damage so bad? After 2 hours, he was polishing the left arm when he heard soft footsteps behind him. He turned. Mira was standing there. She looked just like the stories. Tall, strong, with short dark hair and calm eyes. Her face had a few cuts, but her eyes were clear. She didn't smile. Tom stood quickly. "Ma'am, I didn't know you'd be here." Mira didn't speak. She walked closer and looked at the armor. Then she looked at Tom's hands. He was holding a cloth and a tool. She nodded once. "You did good work," she said. Her voice was quiet but firm. Tom didn't know what to say. "Thank you. I try my best." Mira stepped beside him and picked up a small piece of the broken armor. She looked at it, then placed it back on the table. Then she asked a question that surprised him. "Do you trust me?" Tom blinked. "What?" She looked him in the eyes. "Do you trust me?" Tom didn't know how to answer. Why would she ask that? He was just a cleaner. She was a hero. Why did his trust matter? He hesitated. "I mean, I don't really know you." Mira didn't seem upset. She just nodded again. "Fair." Then she turned to leave. Before she walked out, she said, "I'll be back tomorrow." Tom stood there, confused. What just happened? That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about her question. Why would a soldier like Mira ask for trust from someone like him? Maybe she had a reason. Maybe something big was coming. Maybe she needed someone outside the usual group, someone who saw things others didn't. He remembered how she had looked at his hands, how he had replaced the broken part without being told. Maybe she noticed that. The next morning, Tom returned to the bay early. He checked the armor one last time. Everything was clean. Everything was fixed. Then Mira walked in again. This time, she wasn't wearing armor. She had a dark flight suit on. A bag was slung over her shoulder. She looked around, then at Tom. "I have a mission," she said. "I need someone to come with me." Tom looked around. "You mean me?" "Yes, but I'm just, you see things," Mira said. "You fixed a problem without being told. You don't panic. I need that." Tom's heart beat faster. He wasn't a soldier. He had never fired a weapon. He didn't know how to fight. "I don't know anything about missions," he said. "You'll learn," Mira said. "I don't need a fighter. I need someone I can count on." Tom looked at her. He still didn't understand everything, but he saw something in her eyes. She was serious. She had chosen him. He took a deep breath. Okay, I'll go. Mira nodded. We leave in 1 hour. Pack light. She walked out. Tom stood still for a few seconds. Then he smiled a little. He had always been just a cleaner. But now, maybe things were changing. Maybe trust was more powerful than he thought. Tom stood in his small room, packing his things. He didn't have much, just a few clothes, a tool kit, and an old photo of his parents. He looked around one last time before closing his bag. His hands were shaking, but not from fear. It was something else, something new. Maybe it was excitement. He was leaving the supply bay. He was leaving the job he had done for years. Mira had asked him to join her, not to fight, not to lead, but to help. That meant something. Exactly 1 hour later, he reached the launch deck. Mira was already there, standing beside a small black ship. It was built for speed and silence. Tom had never seen a ship like that before. It had no name written on it, no signs, just smooth metal and hidden engines. Mira was checking her gear. She wore the same black flight suit as before. Her armor was packed in the back of the ship. Tom walked toward her. I'm ready, he said. Mira glanced at him, then nodded. Good, follow me. They entered the ship. It was small inside. 2 seats in the front. A tiny room in the back for rest and supplies. No windows, only screens and controls. Mira sat in the pilot's seat. Tom sat beside her. Where are we going? He asked. Mira started the engines. The ship lifted without a sound. To a planet called Velen 4, she said. It used to be a human outpost. Now it's under Varnic control. Tom had heard of the Varnic. They were a strange insect-like species. They didn't speak in words. They used light signals and electric pulses. They had attacked human colonies before. Many lives were lost. What's on Velen 4? Tom asked. Mira didn't answer right away. Then she spoke. There's something dangerous there. A new kind of weapon. But not like any weapon we've seen before. Tom felt a chill. What kind of weapon? Mira looked at him. A living one. Tom stared at her. He didn't know what that meant. But he stayed quiet. Mira continued. Command doesn't know all the details. I was sent to gather proof, but I can't do it alone. That's why I asked you. Tom still didn't understand why she had picked him. He was just a cleaner. I'm not trained for this, he said. I know. Mira replied. That's why you're perfect. Tom frowned. How? Mira looked at the screen ahead. Stars passed by in silence. You don't think like a soldier. You notice small things. You stay calm. You fix my armor better than our tech crew. You care about your work. That's rare. Tom stayed quiet for a moment. No one had ever said that to him before. After a few hours, they reached deep space. The stars outside changed. The screen showed dark shapes, broken ships, drifting parts, signs of old battles. We're close. Mira said. Velen 4 is behind that field. Tom leaned closer. What's that? A scrap field, she answered. Old space wreckage. It hides our approach. They flew through broken metal and burned ships. The ship's lights stayed off. Only soft green glow from the screens lit their faces. Finally, Velen 4 appeared on the screen. It was dark. The surface looked burned and cracked. No sign of cities or life. The ship landed in a deep canyon. They stayed inside until the scanners showed no patrols nearby. Mira stood up. She handed Tom a small wrist device. This will show you where I am. Stay close. Don't wander. Tom nodded. He strapped on the device. Mira put on her armor. Now clean and fully repaired. She looked ready for anything. They stepped out of the ship. The air was cold. The sky was covered in gray clouds. Strange towers made of black stone stood in the distance. The ground was dry and silent. No birds, no wind. Tom followed Mira as she moved carefully between rocks and broken walls. They passed what looked like old human machines, now covered in dust and Varnic markings. Tom whispered, Did they take over this whole place? Mira nodded. Fast. That's why we think something helped them. They reached an old human lab. Half buried in dirt, Mira scanned the door. It opened with a soft click inside. The air was dry and still. The lights flickered. Papers and tools were scattered across the floor. Tom looked around and saw signs of struggle, broken glass, smashed panels, claw marks. Mira moved toward a sealed chamber. She wiped dust from the glass. Inside was a strange machine, part metal, part flesh. It had a shape like a cocoon, but with wires and lights running through it. Tom stared at it. "What is that?" Mira answered quietly. "That's the weapon." Tom stepped closer. He felt strange, not afraid, just pulled, like something inside the chamber was calling him. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A soft hum filled the room. Mira stepped back. "We need to move. This place is not safe anymore." Tom turned to her. "Should we take it?" "No," she said. "We take what we need. Pictures, data. Then we leave." They worked fast. Mira copied files. Tom took photos. He noticed a symbol on the side of the cocoon, one he had seen scratched into the armor earlier. He pointed it out. Mira looked surprised. "Good catch," she said. "That symbol means control." Tom took more photos of it. Suddenly, the ground shook. An alarm echoed through the lab. Mira looked at him. "We're not alone." They ran toward the exit. From behind, Tom heard a loud hiss. The cocoon glowed. "Go," Mira shouted. They left the lab and rushed toward the canyon. Mira checked the scanner. "Two Varnic patrols are coming. We have 10 minutes." They reached the ship. Mira opened the hatch and jumped in. Tom followed. As the ship lifted into the sky, Mira looked back at the planet. "We found the weapon," she said. "Now we tell command." Tom sat beside her, breathing hard. He didn't feel like a cleaner anymore. The ship flew fast through space. Tom sat quietly, his hands still shaking. Mira sat beside him, eyes focused on the screen. The pictures and files they collected were now stored in a secure drive inside her armor. But something didn't feel right. "We're not going back to HFY yet," Mira said without looking at him. Tom turned his head. "Why not?" "We got the proof." Mira nodded slowly. "That was only the first part. We still don't know how the weapon works or how many they've made." Tom felt a cold weight in his chest. "So, what now?" "We go deeper." "To where?" "The Varnic are building more of these." Tom didn't speak. He looked at the stars outside the screen. They were heading into darker space, places where few human ships had gone. After a few hours, the ship entered orbit around another planet. This one was even darker than Velen 4. Its surface was covered in shadows. Large black towers rose from the ground. Strange lights blinked in slow patterns across the surface. Mira called it Zavros. Tom had never heard of it. "No one talks about this place," Mira said, "because most people don't return." Tom looked at her. "Why are we going?" "To find the center, the real lab, the main source of the weapon. I've seen enough signs to believe it's here." The ship landed far from the towers. Mira didn't want to be seen. They stepped outside. The air was thin, but breathable. The sky above was gray with a hint of purple. The ground felt soft under Tom's boots, like ash. They walked in silence for an hour, moving across dry land and black stone paths. Strange symbols were carved into the rocks. Some glowed faint blue when touched. Mira scanned everything. "These signs are old, older than the Varnic themselves." Tom stopped. "What does that mean?" "It means they didn't build this place. They just found it, and now they're using it." They reached a narrow path that led between two towers. Mira pointed to a small opening in the ground. "We go through there. It leads into their underground system." Tom followed her. The path turned into steps, then into tunnels. The walls were smooth and cold, glowing with soft green light. Every few meters, they passed strange machines. Some were alive, some were sleeping, some were half broken and buzzing. Tom felt like they were walking inside the belly of a sleeping beast. "Do you think the Varnic know we're here?" he asked. Mira kept moving. "Not yet, but they will soon." They reached a large chamber. It was full of glass tanks. Inside each tank, there was something floating. Some were creatures with long arms and closed eyes. Others were just shapes and finished, part metal, Part flesh. Tom stepped closer to one of the tanks. The creature inside looked like a child, but with silver skin and thin wires running through its body. Its eyes were open, and it was looking right at him. Tom took a step back. It's awake, he whispered. Mira looked. They're not just weapons, they're alive, and maybe aware. Tom couldn't look away. The creature inside the tank pressed its hand against the glass. Its eyes were large and glowing. Not angry, just curious. Suddenly, the lights changed. Red lights flashed. A loud sound rang through the tunnels. They found us, Mira said. Time to move. They ran through the halls, turning corner after corner. Tom tried to keep up, his heart pounding. Behind them, they heard movement. Not loud steps, just clicks, sharp and fast. The Varnik were coming. Mira stopped at a sealed door. She pressed her wrist against the panel. It didn't open. It's locked, she said. I'll try another way. Keep watch. Tom turned and looked down the hall. A shadow moved. Something's coming, he said. Mira worked faster. Sparks flew from the panel. Then the door opened. They rushed in. Inside was a control room filled with screens and strange lights. In the center was a large table with a glowing map. It showed the entire facility, including labs, sleeping chambers, and what looked like storage rooms filled with more cocoons. Tom stared at the map. There are hundreds of them, Mira nodded. Maybe more. She pulled out a device and started copying the data. This is what we need. Once we get this out, Command will know the truth. Tom walked around the room. He saw one screen showing a small chamber. Inside was another cocoon. This one was open. A figure stood next to it. The figure turned and looked straight at the camera. Tom froze. It looked human. But it wasn't. Its face was smooth and silver. Its eyes were bright. But its shape, its body, its size, it looked like a man. It's one of them, Tom said. Mira looked. No, it's something new. The screen flickered. The figure moved closer to the camera. Then the image cut off. The deep voice echoed in the room, not from the speakers, but from everywhere. Why are you here? Tom and Mira looked around. Who said that? Tom asked. The voice returned. You are not part of this. You do not belong. Mira pulled out her weapon. Stay close. I can feel your fear. The voice said, but I do not want to hurt you. Tom felt something strange in his mind. A soft whisper, a feeling, not words, but thoughts. The voice wasn't just speaking. It was inside his head. He looked at Mira. It's talking to me. I think. It doesn't want to fight. Mira didn't lower her weapon. That's what they want you to believe. Tom turned toward the wall. No, this is different. You saw me in the lab, the voice said. I'm not like them. I was made, not born. I was told to destroy. But I don't want to. Mira looked at Tom. We're leaving. Now. The data was fully copied. She pulled the drive and headed for the exit. Tom looked back one last time. The voice was still in his head. You are not a soldier, it said. But you have a choice. Tom followed Mira out of the room. But his mind was spinning. Something inside the dark was calling for help. And he had felt it. Maybe trust didn't only belong to humans. Maybe someone, or something, was hoping for it too. Tom followed Mira through the tunnels. Red lights flashed along the walls. The sound of the alarm echoed in the air. Behind them, shadows moved. The Varnik were getting closer. Mira moved quickly, her armor making soft clicks with each step. Tom stayed close, his wrist device blinking to show Mira's location. He held it tightly. His legs ached, but he didn't stop. They reached a lift at the end of the tunnel. Mira pressed the button. The metal door slid open. They stepped inside. The lift went down slowly. Deeper underground. Tom spoke quietly. Do you think they'll follow us here? Mira kept her eyes on the door. If they know what we found, they'll do anything to stop us. Tom looked at her. That voice, it felt real. Mira didn't answer right away. Then she said, it might be real, but that doesn't mean we can trust it. The lift stopped. The door opened into a large, dark chamber. Lights on the ceiling turned on one by one. Tom's eyes widened out. In the center of the room was a massive glass tank. Inside was a living being. Not quite Varnic. Not quite machine. Its body was tall and thin, with silver skin. Tubes and wires were connected to its back. It floated in blue liquid, still and silent. It's awake, Mira said. It's the main one. The true weapon. Tom stepped closer to the tank. The being inside opened its eyes. They glowed softly. Then he heard the voice again. You came back. Tom froze. It's speaking to me again. Mira raised her weapon. Don't answer it. The voice continued. I am not your enemy. I didn't choose this. I was made for war. But I want peace. Tom looked at the creature. Why me? Because you listen. The voice said, you see me not as a tool, but as someone. Mira stepped closer. We don't have time for this. We take a sample, record everything, and leave. Tom turned to her. But what if it's telling the truth? What if it doesn't want to hurt anyone? Mira kept her eyes on the tank. It's a weapon. Even if it means well, it's still dangerous. Tom looked back at the creature. Its eyes were calm. Not cold, not empty, just tired. It's trapped, Tom said. Look at all those wires. It's being controlled. Mira hesitated. She lowered her weapon slightly. Tom moved to a small panel near the tank. There were buttons, screens, and a glowing switch marked in the alien language. He remembered the symbol, the same one he saw before on Mira's damaged armor. He pointed to it. This means control, right? He asked. Mira looked at the symbol and nodded. Tom's hand hovered over the switch. If we shut this off, maybe it will stop being controlled. Mira said nothing. Then she stepped beside him. Fine, she said. But I'll be ready if it turns on us. Tom nodded. He reached out and touched the switch. The machine gave a soft hum. The wires on. The creature's back disconnected one by one. The tank's lights dimmed. The liquid started to drain. Tom stepped back. The creature slowly lowered to the bottom of the tank. The glass opened with a hiss. The being stood there, breathing slowly. It did not move forward. It did not attack. Then it spoke, not with sound, but directly into Tom's mind. Thank you. I'm free now. Mira kept her weapon pointed. Stay where you are. The creature looked at her calmly. Then it reached into a small slot at the side of the tank and pulled out a glowing crystal. It held the crystal toward Mira. This holds the truth, the plans, the orders, the real goal of the Varnic leaders. Mira stepped forward slowly and took the crystal. She scanned it. Her eyes narrowed as she read the information. This says they plan to use you and others like you to control minds across 10 colonies, she said. Even ours. The creature nodded. Yes, they will not stop with humans. They want silence across all space. I was meant to lead the control, but I refused. Tom felt his chest grow tight. So they built you, but you didn't want to follow their orders. Correct, it said. They punished me. They tried to break my will, but they failed. Mira looked at the creature. How do we know this isn't a trick? The creature lowered its head. You don't, but you trusted each other. That's how you survived. Maybe trust is the first step to peace. Tom looked at Mira. She stared at the being for a long time. Then she lowered her weapon. We take the crystal and leave, she said. We'll bring this to command. Let them decide what comes next. Tom turned to the creature. What will you do? I will stay hidden. I do not belong to any side. I only wish to live free. Tom nodded slowly. He and Mira left the chamber. As they climbed back through the tunnels, the lights behind them dimmed. Tom looked at Mira. You trusted me. Thank you. Mira didn't smile, but her voice was softer. You earned it. When they reached the surface, the sky above had changed. More clouds, more lights in the distance. The Varnic were moving. They rushed to the ship. Mira loaded the crystal into a secure case. Tom checked the engines. As the ship lifted into the air, the ground shook. A group of Varnic scouts appeared below, but they were too late. The ship broke through the clouds and entered space. Mira leaned back in her seat. We're not safe yet, but we have what we need. Tom looked out the window. He felt different. He had come as a cleaner, but now he was something more. He had seen the heart of the enemy, and he had found something human inside. The ship moved through space, fast and silent. Inside, the lights were dim. Tom sat beside Mira, staring at the stars on the screen. His mind was full of questions. But one thought stayed the strongest: he had trusted the creature, and it had not hurt them. Mira sat quietly. Her eyes were fixed on the screen, but her thoughts were somewhere else. The crystal with the Varnix plans was locked inside a metal case near her feet. It was the most important thing they had ever carried. We'll reach the station in 2 hours, Mira said. Tom nodded slowly. Do you think Command will believe us? They have to, Mira said. Once they see the data, they'll understand. Tom leaned back in his seat. That creature, it didn't lie. It could have hurt us, but it didn't. It helped us. Mira looked at him. You trusted it, yes? Tom said, because it looked tired, not angry, just tired of being used. Mira stayed silent for a moment. Then she said, sometimes. Trust is the only weapon we have left. Just then, the ship beeped. A red light flashed on the panel. Mira pressed a button. Something's wrong, she said. What is it? Tom asked. Someone's following us. She answered. The screen showed a dark shape behind them. It was a Varnix ship, small, fast, and armed. They must have tracked us, Mira said. Maybe from the moment we left. Tom felt his chest grow tight. Can we outrun them? We'll try. Mira pressed more buttons. The ship's engines roared as it changed course, flying into a nearby asteroid field. Large rocks floated all around them, turning slowly in the darkness. The Varnix ship followed. Mira flew fast, weaving between the asteroids. Tom held onto the side of his seat. The ship shook as they passed too close to a spinning rock. Behind them, the Varnix fired a shot. It missed, but only just. We can't keep this up, Mira said. One wrong move and we crash. Tom looked at the screen. Can we hide? Mira nodded. Maybe. She guided the ship toward a large hollow asteroid. They flew inside, passing through a narrow crack in the surface. Inside, it was dark and quiet. The engines shut down. They waited. Tom listened to his own breathing. The Varnix ship moved outside, scanning the area. Lights flashed across the entrance of the asteroid, but they didn't come in. After a long moment, the Varnix ship moved away. Mira let out a soft breath. That was close. Tom looked at her. What now? We wait a bit longer, then fly to the station. If we're lucky, they'll think we went another way. As they sat in the dark, Tom looked at the case holding the crystal. Mira, he said, what if Command decides to destroy everything? What if they see the creature as just a threat? Mira looked at him. That's possible. But what if it really wants peace? He asked. Mira didn't answer right away. Then she said, that's not our choice. We give the truth. What they do with it, we'll see. Tom looked down. He remembered the creature's voice, calm, clear, asking not for power, but for freedom. Mira, I think I want to speak up. When we show the crystal. She turned toward him. You? Yes, Tom said. I saw it up close. I felt what it was trying to say. Maybe someone needs to hear it. Mira studied his face. Then she gave a small nod. All right, you speak. I'll stand beside you. Later. The ship left the asteroid and flew back into open space. The Varnix were gone. After some time, they reached HFY Station. The docking bay opened. Mira landed the ship. Soldiers waited on the floor below. Officers stood behind them. Their faces were tense. They had been warned. Tom and Mira stepped out of the ship. Mira held the case. Tom walked beside her. In a large meeting room, the top commanders of the station gathered. They listened as Mira explained what they had seen. The crystal's data was projected on the screen: images, maps, and Varnix plans. Gasps filled the room. One officer stood. This is worse than we imagined. These creatures aren't just weapons. They're made to think, feel, and control. If the Varnix had finished this project, they could have turned half our people into mindless shells. Another asked, what happened to the creature you found? Mira looked at Tom. Then she nodded. Tom stepped forward. It was alive, he said, and it knew what it was. It was not angry. It was not violent. It was tired. It didn't want to be used anymore. The room was quiet. Tom continued. It gave us this crystal. It wanted you to see the truth. I don't think it was lying. It helped us escape. It didn't fight. It asked for trust. One of the generals frowned. You're saying it was peaceful? Tom nodded. Yes, it had a choice to hurt us, but it didn't. It gave up its control wires. It said it wanted freedom. The generals whispered among themselves. Finally, one older officer stood up. We need time to study this, but if what you say is true, then we may have a chance. A new kind of understanding, or at least a way to slow the war. Mira looked round the room. That creature is not just a weapon. It's a person. Maybe not like us, but still a person. The officers nodded. Tom felt a weight lift from his chest. He had spoken. They had listened. Later that night, Mira and Tom walked through the halls of Hopefire. The stars outside blinked quietly. You did well in there, Mira said. Tom smiled. Thanks. I was nervous. You were honest, she said. That matters more than skill. Tom looked at her. What if they ask us to go back? Mira gave a small smile. Then we go. He looked at her for a moment, then asked, Do you still trust me? She turned to him, more than ever. A week passed after Tom and Mira returned to Hopefire Station. The crystal's data had shocked the leaders of Earth's Space Command. Every day, more scientists studied the files. Every hour, the threat of the Varnic project became clearer. The creature they found, half machine, half alive, was now being called a sentient core. It was not just a weapon. It was a thinking being, trapped in wires and forced to follow Varnic orders. But now, that same being had asked humans for trust. Mira stood in the command hall, her armor polished, her voice calm. If we don't act fast, she said, the Varnic will launch more sentient cores. The next ones may not ask for peace. General Hux nodded slowly. He was an old man with a tired face but sharp eyes. We've studied the creature's message. We've seen the truth, but many in the High Council still doubt. They want proof that these cores can truly change. Tom stepped forward. What more proof do they need? It gave us the crystal. It saved us. They want to see one again. The general replied, not just reports, not just files. They want a second contact, one they can witness themselves. Tom looked at Mira. She already knew what was coming. You want us to go back, Mira said flatly. The general nodded. You know the system. You know the path. We'll send a small team. No weapons raised. Just you, Tom, and a tech team. If the core still exists, bring it back. Mira stared at the star map on the screen. If the Varnic catch us this time, we may not come back. I understand, the general said. But you are the only ones it trusted. That night, Mira sat in her room, staring at her armor. The silver surface still held scratches from their last mission. Tom entered the room, holding 2 cups of warm tea. I heard, he said. We're leaving tomorrow. She nodded. Back, into the storm. Tom sat beside her. You don't have to do this. She looked at him. Yes, I do. He smiled a little. Then I do too. In the hangar, a small stealth ship waited. It was faster than the last one and nearly silent. It had special shields that could hide it from Varnic scans. The team was small. Mira, Tom, and to techs named Nora and Jeb. They left Hopefire under the cover of night. No one said much during the trip. Each person had seen the recordings. Each knew what was at stake. As they neared the ruined moon where the sentient core was last seen, Mira's eyes stayed fixed on the scanner. Any signs? Tom asked. Nothing yet, she said. The moon looked even more broken than before. New scars covered its surface. It seemed the Varnic had been there after them. Maybe to destroy what remained. Or maybe to find the core. They landed in the same place near the tall stone structures where the core had lived. This time, the ruins were quiet. No red lights, no humming sounds. They stepped out, flashlights shining. Dust blew around there. Boots, split up, Mira said. But stay close. Tom followed her into the main chamber. The walls were still marked with strange symbols. But the metal chair where the core once sat was empty. No signs of life. He said. Mira walked closer. She touched the side of the machine. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A soft voice echoed from the walls. You returned. Tom turned fast. It's here. The voice came again. Why? Mira stepped forward. Because you asked for trust. And we gave it. Now we ask the same. A panel on the floor slid open. Light poured from below. Then, slowly, the core rose from the ground. Its shape was the same, tall, smooth, glowing softly. But this time, it looked weaker. Some wires had been torn. Sparks blinked across its side. You're hurt, Tom said. Yes, it replied. The Varnic returned. They tried to end me. But you survived, Mira said. Barely. I hid. I waited. I knew one of you might return. Tom stepped closer. They don't believe you yet. The humans. They want to see you, hear from you. The core tilted its head. Then take me. Before I break again. Mira touched her earpiece. Nora. Jeb. Prepare the container. The text brought a large, glowing case forward. It was built to carry living machines without harm. The core looked at it, then looked at Mira. Do you still trust me? It asked. Mira nodded. Yes, that's why we came. The core stepped into the case. The lid closed gently. Lights blinked. Green. They hurried back to the ship. But as they took off, alarms screamed. Tom ran to the screen. 2 Varnic ships. Fast approach. Mira tightened her hands on the controls. We can't outrun them in normal speed. Get the jump drive ready, Nora shouted from the back. It needs 60 seconds. The Varnic fired. The ship shook hard. Sparks flew from the walls. Shields down to 50, Jeb said. Tom gritted his teeth. We're not going to make it. The core's voice came from the case. Let me help. Mira looked back. What? I can control their ships. Briefly. They still use parts of my code. Mira hesitated. Tom shouted, we have no choice. Mira opened the case. The core stepped out. Light burning from its eyes. It placed its hands on the ship's wires. Energy pulsed. Outside. The Varnic ship stopped. Now, the core said weakly. Mira hit the jump switch. The stars stretched. The ship vanished into light. When they stopped, they were near HFY again. But the core collapsed. Tom ran to it. Stay awake, please. Its voice was low. I did what I could. Mira knelt beside it. You saved us again. I wanted to be more than a tool, the core said. I wanted to choose. You did, Mira said softly. You chose. US. The core gave a final blink of light. Then it went still. Tom felt tears in his eyes. It gave everything. Mira stood slowly. And now the council will see. With their own eyes. She looked at the stars ahead. This was not the end. She said, this was just the beginning. The council chamber was full. Leaders from many planets sat around a large table. Screens showed images of the destroyed Varnic ships and the silent core. Mira and Tom stood before them. The atmosphere was heavy. The room felt tense. Mira spoke. First, the creature we found was more than a weapon. It was a thinking being. It chose peace over war. Tom stepped forward. We saw it with our own eyes. It helped us escape. It asked for trust. One of the council members frowned. And yet, you brought it here after it almost died. Mira answered firmly. It saved our lives twice. It gave us a chance to end the Varnic's mind control. Another leader leaned forward. How can we trust something created by the enemy? Tom looked around. Because it chose us. Because it showed us what trust means. The room was silent. Then a young woman stood. I was a soldier, she said. I fought against the Varnic. But I saw what happened to those under their control. If the core can help us stop this, we must listen. A few heads nodded. The council began to discuss. Some wanted to destroy the core technology. Others wanted to learn from it. Mira and Tom waited. After a long debate, the leader of the council spoke. We will study the core's mind. We will try to understand how it made its choice. He looked at Mira. You and your team will help us. We need your knowledge. Mira nodded. We will do everything we can. Tom felt relief. They had won a chance for peace. Days passed. Scientists worked with the crystal and core data slowly. They learned to separate control codes from the creature's will. It was hard work. But hope grew. One evening, Mira and Tom walked outside the station. The stars were bright. Tom asked, do you think the Varnic will try again? Mira looked at him. Maybe, but now we have a new weapon, trust, and maybe that is stronger than any machine. Tom smiled. I never thought a cleaner like me could help save so many. Mira smiled back. You were always more than that. Suddenly, the station's alarm sounded. A message flashed on the screen. A known ship approaching, the alert said. Mira and Tom rushed inside. The command center was busy. Everyone watched the screen. The ship was not Varnik. It was human, but old and damaged. The communication line opened. A voice came through, weak but clear. This is Commander Hale, the voice said. We need help. Mira exchanged a look with Tom. Prepare a rescue team. Tom's heart raced. Another chance to prove trust. The ship landed. Commander Hale and his crew were tired but alive. They told stories of a lost colony, trapped behind enemy lines. Mira said, we will help, together. Tom realized then that trust was not just between two beings. It was a choice to stand together, to face danger as one. The stars outside shone brighter. A new dawn was beginning.